Mr. Siminya.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm advised that the technology is ready for us to hear the evidence of the next witness. I have had conversation with Mr. Bani regarding the ruling of yesterday. From the communication, I understand that the Chair's ruling was understood to mean that that the cross-examination permissible by Mr. Vani would only be limited to the statement that Mr. Ngqabi had made. I had understood it differently, and so did my team. The very basis of why the cross-examination application was made was because clarificatory questions were not insufficient to cover their purpose. It is for that reason that cross-examination was made. I don't know, Chair, whether there would be a need for a clarificatory ruling.
Yes. Mr. Siminya, I understood quite differently. Mr. Ngqabi came with an affidavit yesterday, not a statement. And when Mr. Bana wanted to know if the cross-examination will be limited to the statement, he meant the statement that had been filed accompanied by the application for condonation. And it is on that basis that a list was requested from Mr. Vani so as to ensure that they prepare for cross-examination in accordance with the list that is provided by Mr. Vani.
That clarifies the matter, Chair.
Thank you.
And absent any comment by others, we beg leave to call Mr. Ganda.
And who is representing Mr. Ganda?
Is the LRC? Chaos, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Is it Mr. or Miss? There are three.
Mr. Gqabi, Chair.
Mr. Gqabi. Yes, Mr. Gqabi.
Morning, Chair, and morning, Commissioners. Mr. Ganda is here and ready to proceed. We did file his statement to the Commission, and we also have copies as well. Should there be any two over?
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Ganda, can you hear us?
Just speak a little bit louder, Mr. Gqabi.
Oh, yes. Yes, you can hear us, Chair.
Yes. Mr. Ganda, can you hear me?
Commissioner, I can hear you very well, Chair.
Thank you. Please state your full names for the record.
My name is Shadrach Ganda, Ganda.
Thank you. Are you going to take an oath or affirmation?
Commissioner, I'll take an oath, Chairperson.
An oath. Do you swear that the evidence you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you, Mr. Ganda. Mr. Gqabi.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ganda, can you please introduce yourself and give us a brief personal background and how you got to meet Comrade Joe Gqabi?
Thank you. As I stated, my name is Shadrach Ganda. I was born in a town called Vryburg, before coming to Johannesburg. That's where I did my primary school and went to Tembalabantu High School, which was a boarding school in the Eastern Cape. I did school in East London and in Tembalabantu, which is in Zwelisha. Zwelisha is just outside of King Williamstown. My crossing with the politics, especially in South Africa, which was a very dangerous thing to do, started whilst before I went to Tembalabantu High School. I was a member of a South African Students Movement, SASM, which was the high school chapter of the Black Consciousness Movement, BCM. At that school, we had a good exposure to luminaries like Steve Biko and others. I won't dwell much about that. I will try and carry on fairly swiftly to get to the Joe Gqabi connection. In that period, I personally had been several times on different occasions, been arrested, detained by the South African Special Branch Police for my political activities. How that came by was that there was generally a view that people coming from the northern part of the country, it didn't matter which part of South Africa you came from in the north, were troublemakers in Ciskei and in the Eastern Cape. And we were more scrutinized more than other general people. My activities then were activities of a lawful organization, not a banned organization as in the ANC and the PAC at that time. In the period, I was initially arrested and was kept on continuous interrogation without rest for about a period of about 48 hours continuously. I did collapse, I did breathe through my nose without them touching me. That was the initial time that they fetched me. At that time, I was around 16 years old. They had sought to find out something about, or that linked a cousin of mine who was arrested unknown to me for PAC activities. They were trying to leave the country, to go into exile, into political exile. May I just preface my statement by saying all the arrests and detentions of political nature, not of criminal nature. Now, in that period, SASM was very strong in certain institutions in the Eastern Cape, and there was a very strong linkage with Johannesburg. In particular, in a very short space of time, we were linked with the underground of the ANC. We were encouraged to remain within the legal organization, lest we get banned or we get arrested ourselves. That there was no glory in being arrested, but carrying on, continuing this work of the struggle was important. In that period, I came across Joe Gqabi's networks, which were basically serves an underground network of students, largely SASM students. We will talk about people like Zweli, Sizani, other people, including Abu Mthibi, Modikai Tata, and, for example, a colleague of mine. By say colleague of mine, I'm telling a comrade that we were in the same cell for an extended period. That work occupied quite a great part of my life, and that work linked me directly with Comrade Joe Gqabi up to the time that he was killed in Harare in 1981, in July the 30th. Now, that linkage was not of a friendship. I know my affidavit talks about a comrade and a friend, but that's an expression of the nature of the man, the comrade that he was. He was very popular amongst young people and hence was able to talk our language. And we even called him Brajo, although he was of our father's ages generally. Commissioner, I will pause there unless there's further information that you need me to talk about. I'll talk about my activities post that period, my activities in the country before going into exile, my activities abroad in exile, and until coming home at relevant times. Thank you.
Thanks for that. If you could please expand briefly on Joe Gqabi's life and political involvement and how he got to move to Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Commissioners. I think that the time that I have on the time that the Commissioner would allow, it would not be sufficient to go through Joe Gqabi's biography. However, I will cover areas that I think are relevant to our purpose today, and areas that I think were areas that necessarily led to him being viewed as a person that the state can carry out the extrajudicial matter on him without having failed to break him with incarceration and detentions and other things. Comrade Joe Gqabi, to start with, was amongst the first Umkhonto weSizwe, which is with the military wing of the ANC, to be sent abroad for military training. They went to China. I think there were 3 of them. Amongst them, there was one woman called Ruth Mombati, one of his talent of the ANC, who is also late. When they came back, it would have been around 1962. He was arrested and convicted, given a sentence of 2 years for leaving the country illegally. When that 2 years was completed, further charges were added. He was charged, convicted, and sent to Robben Island for 10 years. Now, this is going to be relevant when I talk about Mrs. Gqabi later. I think that we'll deal with that when we get there. Comrade Joe Gqabi, when he was released, I think it was in 1975 or late 1975, thereabouts. The date can be corrected or checked somewhere. He came out and he was not a broken man, despite the fact that he was a banned person. Under South African apartheid laws, when you're a banished person, you're not allowed to meet with more than 2 people. In other words, 3 was maximum, and you had a curfew. That made it very difficult to have a meeting or to go to rallies or to address more than 2 people. However, in the struggle, and the people who are in the struggle have ways and means of overcoming that. Therefore, some of the meetings that he is known to have carried, and a thing that they couldn't pick, the state could not pick up on and arrest him for, would be to meet with different contacts in an area of Mfulo Park. I think that many people know what Mfulo Park in Soweto is. And we would have find a spot moving all the time, find a spot where there was a means of communication with the person who would be geographically at a distance that couldn't be defined as being in the same meeting or being in a group, being a group of that meeting. The meetings were very focused, strategic, and very short. Other things that needed to be learned by us or by students at that time, this is a period leading to the Soweto uprising 6 months later or so. would come through the different cells or different people that have a different responsibility in the underground generally. And there was a lot of information exchange, pamphleteering, and verbal meetings that we held, because hard copy material was problematic, because in the end you get raided and people get stopped in the roadblock and they find the material, and then they are then implicated in things that they could possibly have escaped. Then in the period leading to the Soweto uprising, yes, he played a role in giving guidance, counsel, and answers to challenging views about what is to be done about the struggle in general. And he was open to discuss with people in non-partisan basis. In other words, he spoke to the PAC people, he spoke to the ANC people. I'm talking about underground here. And he also spoke with a lot of students that were Black consciousness students at that time, or students who would be like me, would have been viewed as being in the Black consciousness movement, but already who were ANC underground operators. June 16 comes, and a lot of things happen. There were a lot of killings, arrests. He was not spared. He was also arrested and subsequently charged and put on trial on what became known as the Pretoria 12 trial. That trial was one of the big trials, if not the biggest trial since the Rivonia trial. It had a lot of ANC stalwarts, ANC leaders themselves, and other leaders from Limpopo, and generally across the country. And, without mentioning all of them, there were also a trial that also sent Msimas Khwane, Tokyo, to Robben Island. There was also, I think I may mention this, one woman, a single woman in that trial called Paulina Mokhale. These people, at the end of a lot of torturing and interrogation and all sort of things that you can imagine, 6 of them were acquitted. Comrade Joe was one of them. He was accused number 6, and 6 of them were convicted. They served varying sentences for, I think, from about 6 years to about 20. Upon his acquittal, he went back home to his house. They did not stop harassing him then. After that, of course, he was banned and he couldn't do much harm to anything. He couldn't address rallies and all that, but he continued with the underground work. He was a master in the clandestine work of all kinds that you can imagine, from communication, written, and any other activities of the struggle. There had been several attempts to either rope him in or link him so that he can be found to have done something politically wrong, that the special branch could arrest him, but it was too smart for them. I think that the 12 years he spent in the Robben Island was a good lesson. You remember that this is a person of the scholars of Nelson Mandela and Sisulu and other leaders of the ANC, who they spent a lot of time at Robben Island with. At about 1970, end of 1976, 1977, in that period, after acquittal, the work became more difficult because there was more focus on him, number one. Number two, the special branch had found a foot into the township. There were informers and other people, but Soweto was a vibrant and a place that could not be stopped by intimidation or tear gas or shooting. In that period, the part that I said when I talked about myself and I paused would lead to what I want to talk about now, that I then, because I could not write my grade 12, because I had been detained several times, I served two Section 6, what was called Section 6 of terrorism detention, which you were held incommunicado for a period of minimum six months, which could be extended. And I had been put on trial. I was acquitted in the Tembalaband 11 trial. And the schools that I tried to go to in the Eastern Cape, I became a banned person. I would try and go to a school. It's either a school would clean your plane out, say that, no, we cannot take it, we've got problems, we don't want to have special branch in our school from time to time. Beyond that, some school, the one or two schools that took me, they were visited by the special branch and they were asked to actually spy on me. A principal being asked to spy on its pupils, and then the principal would then the next day call me and ask me to leave because he can't tolerate to do so. That left me with no other choice. I would like to point that some of my decision to join the ANC and to join Mkondo Sizwe at that time was that in my last detention, we made a covenant with my last interrogator, who said to me, he's forced to release me, otherwise he was going to see that I'm sent from Robben Island. And this is a man, a very huge person, that would of the size of what in rugby is known as the bomb squad. That man beat me even with his body. And he said that, listen, you go out there and do your nonsense. When you come back, if you come back here, one of us will be dead, and that will not be me, that will be you. To which I quietly said that, well, if I come back, I'll be carrying an AK-47, I'll kill you. I didn't verbalize that. So I left the Eastern Cape and joined the movement and joined the underground work. The movement advised me to work within the structures of continue to work within the structures of legal organizations, but not take leadership positions. Continue because I had extensive contacts in the Eastern Cape, East London, PE, Craddock, and other places in that part of the world. It was possible, therefore, to create further contacts there or further cells in that place. Now, I was not at liberty to meet Comrade Joe physically all the time. I was there. We were getting our communication in the agreed means of communicating, and that culminated in a specialized work that I was doing in the country of taking people that were marked, people that were looked at. The special branch was after people that were fearing their lives, wanting to go to exile, angry youth that wanted to go and join Mkondo Sizwe, youth that had lost hope and wanted to go to school abroad, because not only people who skipped the country, not all of them went to Mkondo Sizwe or to apply in the PAC case or Azanla. I worked between South Africa and Swaziland, where I became a courier between the leadership there and the leadership which was based in Maputo. We would come to Swaziland, or I would go to Maputo from time to time, but not often. I was discouraged from going to Maputo for organization fearing that it doesn't want me to be exposed. I'm talking about leaders like the late Stanley Madizela, John Kadimeng, Comrade Manga, and others who were based in Mozambique. That work continued. We did not only courier human beings across the border, we also brought messages and directives that were given to different organizations or to different operatives that were inside the country and to some of the members of the leadership that were in the country. For example, amongst other things that we did, perhaps I can say I did, but I had a cell that I was operating with. When it came to the period where Comrade Joe Gqabi's children, Nonkululeke and Jomo, had to leave the country, when they were given orders to leave the country as the situation was untenable that time, I was asked to take them out of the country. Other children were children of the family of Comrade Nkadimeng, John Nkadimeng, late also. Not all of their children, I think 3 or 4 of them, because the eldest one was already in exile then. There were units that were inside the country, and there were funds that needed to be couriered back into the country. There was no internet banking, which is now dangerous nowadays, or ATMs where people could go and collect money from a bank. And there were means that were...
sorry, Mr. Kanda, I am sorry to interpose, but where is this biography leading us in relation to the application which is before us?
So what we are trying to establish, Chair, is to actually lead us to where Joe Gqabi was assassinated.
Yes, but let's get to the point.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Chairperson, I will do so. I'll move on, and these were works that we were doing with commercial in the country, but I'll wait to be led by the evidence leader.
Yes, Mr. Gqabi, just take control of this evidence, please.
Okay, Mr. Ganda. Now, take us through the climate in Zimbabwe. In paragraph, page 3 and 4 of the statement, you mentioned that there had been an attempt at Mr. Joe Gqabi's life. Can you please take us through the climate and the events leading to his assassination?
Okay. If I'm allowed to, that I will talk to the previous attempts before Harare, because the Harare one was the terminal one. There was an attempt for him to be killed in the country. He was advised to leave the country. He was in Botswana, and but Botswana said that they could not provide him with sufficient security because they had intelligence from which that he was going to be killed. He was deported to Lusaka. He went to Lusaka. At the time of being in Lusaka, it was a time that coincided with the independence of Zimbabwe. He was then sent to Zimbabwe to become the ANC's first chief representative at the office of the ANC there. This is where the military interface or intervention happened to him. Zimbabwe was quite a hostile place in many ways. In Zimbabwe, there were dynamics that were difficult, in the sense that apart from the ANC being one of the liberation movements that fought side to side with the ZIPRA, there were issues between the different liberation movements. There were issues with the government. There were issues with the Rhodesian ex-regime officials who were working with the South African intelligence. when I joined him in Harare, which was in beginning of 1981, it would have been January or beginning of February. On one of the weekends, he had to go to Lusaka. I drove him to Lusaka, to the airport, and drove back in his car. I hope that if I'm summarizing too much, evidence leader, you'd stop me, you'll ask me further questions. I came back, parked the car, and in the morning when I had to use the car, I'm summarizing, I discovered the bomb under his car. It was concealed under the car. It had its own power source and all that. It was set to explode when the car moves. Comrade Joe returned the following week from Lusaka. We continued working there. At that time, I was an aide and working in the office of the ANC chief representative. It was around middle of between April, May that we saw heightened tailing or observation by people that were strange, the following of Comrade Joe and all that. We decided that Comrade Joe should not sleep at the house. We must have a curfew where he must leave before dusk. And what was also difficult was that the Zimbabwe government had refused to give us, to arm us to protect ourselves. At that time, Zimbabwe had just come from a military struggle. Everybody had a firearm on the road. It was so difficult that even at the time before Comrade Joe left the house to go to sleep where none of us knew, because for security reasons, we had no firearms. We had to board a hatchet as part of security. On the day that he was killed, what happened was we had a meeting with people that came from South Africa, which always happened, and from overseas. This day, we could not find a venue that was neutral, that we had not met at more than twice, in order to protect the people that were going back to South Africa, not to be seen with the ANC or with Joe Gqabi. And that Joe Gqabi said that I must get find another vehicle that I can ferry them on. When we failed to use the places that were arranged, we decided to have a rather shorter meeting at the house, at our residence at 19 Eves Crescent in Ashton Park, a suburb called Ashton Park. We had a meeting, we had a short meal, and after that meal, we left. My vehicle was parked behind Mr. Joe Gqabi's vehicle. And I reversed out of the driveway. I reversed all the way to let him out. In the process, he walked to the gate and said, "Listen, go live with those people. They are exposed enough. Just leave." I said, "No, I'll close the gate behind you." He said, "No, I can close the gate myself. Thank you very much." I left. He went back into the car. What happened is what extrapolation and of the scene thereafter happened. In the process, he would have went into the house, locked the door. When this briefcase got into the car that was parked way down in the driveway, under the porch, Comrade Joe would have reversed up to the gate. When he hit the gate, the attackers were there. There were more than 6 gunmen that were there with automatic weapons. It's easy to determine that by the number of firearms that were found on the scene. and the later confessions that were made by the people that the Zimbabweans had arrested at one stage. In the process, it was clear that they had intended to ensure that this time they don't miss him by bombs that get discovered, or if there were resistance, either people that were firing back, they would have killed everybody. So they would have been outgunned. And I'm talking about myself, and I said that even if I had a firearm, then I would have been outgunned, I would have been killed. We went, dropped the people off. When we came back in the evening, which was just after midnight, we found the car was still in the driveway, lights were still on, which was also a violation of the curfew that we had put. Entered the house, entered the premises, looked, and I discovered that there were glasses in the driveway, and then I got worried. I went to look at the car, and there he was, sloshed onto his left-hand side in the car. He had been shot through the window, and both windows on the right-hand side, and through the door. He died under a volley of fire. Apparently, there were more than, I think, about more than 20 or 30 bullets that killed that were on his body. I then left the place urgently, decided to go to the Minister of State Security at that time, Emmerson Mnangagwa, the current president of Zimbabwe, who was a good friend and opposite number to Comrade Joe Gqabi. Comrade Joe Gqabi was the head of intelligence in the ANC. They had apparently struck a good relationship. Questions later were asked that why do you go to the minister's house when you passed so many police stations? The problem was the very police stations that I would report, I would stop at. Maybe the very attackers came from there, because the Rhodesians were still very active in the police force in Zimbabwe, in all forces of government, including intelligence. Mr. Mnangagwa came to the house and started then what I would imagine is the normal state activities: close the borders, raise alarm, send police, send bomb disposal squad, and all other investigators to the house. We were taken out of the house.
Can you then just take us through the response from the Zimbabwean authorities, whether there were any investigations after his assassination?
Okay.
And you are allowed, sorry, Mr. Ganda, you are allowed to refresh your mind from your statement if you wish.
Yes, perhaps you could start again at paragraph 13 of your statement.
Okay, let me just have a sip of water, please.
Dealing with the investigations and then the TRC hearings.
I'll get to it, Commissioner. Please bear with me. I had set them aside in a particular fashion, but I'll get there.
Do you have a copy of your affidavit, Mr. Ganda?
I do, Chairperson. It's loose leaves, but I had interprets it with my notes that I was going to read from. So I'm just reaching out to that. Okay, the page 13, start with some agents responsible.
Paragraph 13.
Paragraph 13, I beg your pardon, page 4.
Yes.
Yes.
Some of the agents responsible were later arrested and confessed to the Zimbabwean police, while others remain at large. The court in Zimbabwe freed the accused agent after they had claimed that their confessions were made under duress. This is after they had appealed, and their sentences ranging from 10 to 50 years by the initial court. Despite these arrests and confessions, the investigations did not progress and were never concluded. That's post the release of these people. And apart from the arrested agents, no further leads ever followed up on. To date, no one has been brought to justice. If I may proceed to paragraph 14, on the 25th of July 1996, I, together with Mrs. Gqabi, widow of Joe Gqabi, testified at the TRC hearings in support of the statements we had submitted earlier that year. The purpose of our testimonies was to request that the TRC investigate all circumstances and actions carried out by the apartheid government through its agents and in the assassination of Joe Gqabi.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Ganda. Can you please expand briefly on some of the evidence that you presented and what actually happened after presenting your evidence?
Yes, more specifically, what happened with the investigations?
The investigations in Zimbabwe,
I mean
the TRC.
TRC.
With the TRC. After testifying at the TRC and after giving oral evidence, we were promised with Mrs. Gqabi that there would be investigation. The TRC will recommend that the NPA investigate, as they acknowledge that there were violations of our human rights. The investigations never followed, never took place. This happened until the 2019 or roundabout then, when the family got together, Mrs. Gqabi's family and myself, and we sought to progress further with what we had started. We then resolved to write a letter to the head of the NPA, as it was an organization that the TRC had said we should it's going to institute the investigations. We did that. The letter is annexed with my statement. We wrote to Advocate Batohi, who, through the letter of Advocate McAdam, responded and said that a team would be appointed to do the investigations, and that there might be a need to go to Zimbabwe to further start the investigations from there. Because, as it were, there were no other connection, or never heard of any hearing or any form of conduct post the acquittal of the people that were convicted. I think I should mention here that the people that were convicted were not just ordinary citizens of Zimbabwe, and it is stated in the annexes that I attached. A lot of them were South African agents and the British national, Colin Evans. One of them was an agent who had come from South Africa, or was a South African, was born there, by the name of Farke Visser. They were deported to wherever by the Zimbabwean government upon their appeal succeeding. Some of them died. Farke Visser died here in South Africa of natural causes. He was never asked to come up with the truth or to explain what had happened. These are people that had interaction with me in Zimbabwe as the intelligence there, and who it's another story maybe that will deviate from the question that the chairperson asked me to confine myself to. Back here in South Africa, we were were conducted by a certain colonel, and were given a Captain Matipe, who started the investigation. He proceeded in a very professional and energyful approach. He was then one time when I tried to do a follow-up of what investigations were happening, I was told that no, he was removed from the case, and that there was also a new colonel that would be handling this case. An excuse that was given there was that there's a lot of work, and they decided that they should this new colonel and who will appoint the investigating officer will deal with it. And the colonel was Colonel Pichwane, and the new investigation officer was Captain Siwele. Chairperson, the activities from then on are lengthy, and there's a lot of details to it. I will try and talk through them, and should you require me to read directly from my statement or what I have prepared. I prepared some writing that, but maybe it might be long. I'll pause there and get direction.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ganda. Let's go to paragraph 21.1, where you set out one of the follow-ups, engagements with the investigating officer, and the reasons they set out for the frustrations they got with the State Security Agency with regards to the information they had requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chibe. I'll comment on that. You said what? You said which paragraph?
21.1, yes.
Okay. On the 23rd of May 2023, during several follow-ups engagement with the DPCI, the investigation officer informed the family that their investigative efforts were frustrated by the State Security Agency, which denied them access to classified archives of the country's intelligence services, the multiple services. This issue persisted over an extended period. On several occasions, we were told that a letter was sitting on a desk of an official awaiting their signature to allow the investigating officer access to resources in general, including the archives.
Please expand on that. Please expand on that and confirm whether that request was granted at some point, and what was the last update on that specific part.
We never had a response to that, either by by Colonel Siwela. Sorry, I'm promoting him. Captain Siwela, nor did we hear whatever happened. Several follow-ups I tried with him came to naught. However, I would like to point out that in the period and the process of chasing up on his activities, because we were not getting any communication. It's a long time between 2020, when the first investigating officer was appointed, to 2023. We are talking now around 2023. Captain Siwela also said that, well, he doesn't know what to do. Maybe he should go to the house and ask them to assist with access to certain things. That is annexed in my correspondence with him. I then took initiative. I'm coming to SSA, and what happened in that period? Through ex-colleague of mine, I got a certain Mr. Ramkhele. I got to get a contact to try and get an appointment with the DG of intelligence. We were assisted in that effort by another employee of SSA by the name of Seth, who ultimately managed to organize an appointment with the DDG. Then the name, I just don't have it. I've written it in my notes, but There's one DDG who was acting at the time that I met, so it's clear. I met them at the headquarters of SSA at Musada. I can supply the dates and the names of the people that I met with. The DDG said that the investigating officer must contact him directly. He will have all what he wanted. Later on, a few weeks later, when I did a follow-up, the investigating officer said that, well, there's a protocol in the government system. You see, I'm only a captain, and to conduct a DDG, I can't do that directly. I have to get my boss to get someone in that rank to ask for that. And also, you must remember that the effort was to get permission at a higher level, which was the DG. The acting DDG at that time would possibly have the powers of acting, but even that access was not possible by the words of Captain Suela. That correspondence is annexed to my statement. Further than that, we never heard from the SSA, never heard from Captain Suela. The things actually became a bit more irritable or unprofessional with the interaction with the investigating officer, to an extent that they sought to go and see Mrs. Gqabi and not me at Mrs. Gqabi's house, which we went. We had that meeting, and there was nothing came out of it. A huge ring binder with lots of papers and some cuttings and reports from the internet were presented as a proof that there is an investigation that is taking place, and nothing happened. The leads that we gave to the investigating officer, including people that publicly they were writing about them in the South African media generally, and certain journalists that had done work in investigative work like Max Dupree were given to them. The advent of going to Harare was ruled out. I was told by Captain Suela, and they said they must deal with the embassy and all that. The embassy sent him, according to him, forward and backward, and after supplying the papers that the embassy wanted, they then referred him to DERCO. He never had any progress with DERCO. That one was dead in the water. The question of the question of the follow-up thereon was that it never got anywhere. There are other people that maybe could reasonably be said to be more difficult to access, maybe for him, but there are protocols of accessing some of these things. I would say that I did give a report or a narrative to him that how the then Minister of State Security was closed and was at the head of the ANC's presence there and activities of the intelligence there. And they means could be made to find out where everything had stopped, given that certain people were acquitted in Zimbabwe. That has not happened. At least there, I had no powers or connection to expedite that. The other person was Comrade Joe Gqabi, was very, very close and a friend of the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. And they've never talked about approaching him or approaching his office or foundation with view to getting maybe inner or inside information on what could have happened. In that period, in the period after the period of the killing of Comrade Joe Gqabi, it should be known that Harare and Pretoria had a bilateral committee that existed on intelligence, where they exchanged intelligence, formal intelligence information on all of these things. You remember that intelligence that time between Zimbabwe and South Africa was about silencing the ANC or trying to knock the ANC or Umkhonto Sizwe out of Harare. Those leads never came to anything. There's a certain person by the name of Jeremy Brickell, who is a Zimbabwean national, and I also add that he's a white Zimbabwean. He was amongst the few white guerrillas in Zimbabwe, who then, excuse me about that, who was, because of his activities and closeness to Umkhonto Sizwe, the apartheid state attempted to kill him. They bombed him placed a bomb in his car. They bombed him. He is still alive, but he's severely maimed. I think he's a quadriplegic or he can't lose most of it. I spoke to him. He said that, well, if he's approached, he can talk. He can share information that he has. The name, surname, and the location, I gave that to Captain Siwela. Nothing, no follow-up, no nothing. Nothing happened or came out of that. I'll pause there so that I don't think.
Thanks, Mr. Ganda. Can you please go to paragraph 28, page 8 of your statement, where you talk about the passing of Mr. Gqabi and the telephone conversation you had with Captain Siwela. Can you please expand on that and how and whether you received any further updates from the investigating team after that? Can you hear me, Mr. Ganda?
I think he's frozen.
He's frozen. Mr. Ganda?
Do we have technicians around who can assist? I think this might be an appropriate time to take a tea adjournment whilst this issue is being attended to. We'll reconvene at 11:15.
I think I'm back on. There was a break in the
Chair, I'm informed that the witness is using cell phone data.
Yes.
For that reason, there might be interruptions from time to time.
Yes.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Gqabi?
Thank you, Chair. We are ready to proceed.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Ganda, just to take us back to paragraph 21.3 of your
Are we not
statement.
at paragraph 28, Mr. Gqabi?
Yes, Chair, we had a brief check-in with Mr. Ganda, and he would like to clarify a few points on
Yes.
some of those paragraphs, Chair.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair.
And take control, Mr. Gqabi.
Yes, Chair. I'm just caught between trying to
May I make a
lead
comment,
his
please?
evidence and him actually explaining his story.
Yes.
But thank you for your
But
guidance,
you
Chair.
are leading him, and you must control his evidence in chief.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair. 21.3, Mr. Gqabi.
Yes, Mr. Ganda. You mentioned that
Could I, I've got a request, please. May I make a request, please? A humble request, if.
Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Ganda.
Okay. I would like to, with respect to request the commission to kindly indulge some of the things that I want to talk about. May I point out that I feel at the moment rattled. I will say why. I am trying to recount things that, or investigation that would have started 45 years back, and I have been preparing for it. With it, there's a pain of recollecting things that had happened to myself, to Joe Gqabi, and to Mrs. Gqabi. To that end, the commission gave this family, and maybe some in my family too, or some in the country, a chance of hearing from people who are now dead, people who were silenced. I feel very strong that given a chance to bring up this story, not myself, there is no one, even Mrs. Gqabi had pointed out, that who is late now, that she is, you read her TRC submission. No one is looking for fame, no one is looking for sensationalism or any resources in terms of reparations that have never come to place. If I were to skimp around what Joe Gqabi is or why Joe Gqabi was killed, it will be really unfair. I would have told maybe a small part of that story. Some of the things that maybe I attributed to myself doing were things that the very special branch was looking for us to to arrest us and testify against him so that they can put him back in jail. The very people that who killed him ultimately, they were going to kill me too. It is a pain that no one can actually countenance in their mind, and it has not been told. You drive around Johannesburg, you drive around Cape Town, you drive even in Soweto. There are places called Joe Gqabi's God. You ask people, who is he? This is 45 years after he had died. Nobody can knows how he died and the reason he died. Our generation who worked with him are dying off. I'm 67 years of age now, and many of my colleagues have died, except for those that had died, apart from those who died in combat. I'm trying to bring that to them. Please, I'm really humbly asking the commission to indulge myself. I feel really rattled because I have to rattle through things and respond to the evidence leader as if I'm responding to a prosecutor.
Yes. Mr. Ganda, You are being represented by Mr. Gqabi, who is an experienced lawyer. He must have informed you when you was preparing your affidavit about the terms of reference of this commission. We are not here to listen to the life of Mr. Gqabi. We are here to determine whether there was any interference in the investigation of his assassination. So we are confined by our terms of reference to allow you to give such evidence as will assist this commission to be able to make a recommendation in line with its terms of reference.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Mr. Ganda. Taking us back to paragraph 21.3, you talked about the refusal, how the PCI refused the investigating officer's request to travel to Zimbabwe, and how when the DPCI tried to reach out to the Zimbabwean authorities, they were sent back to DECO. If you can please touch briefly whether were any reasons provided for such refusal, and then what was the last update you received from the investigating officer on the feedback from DECO?
Thank you, Commissioners. The simple answer is no. There was no feedback, no follow-up, haven't had anything. Indeed, in one of the interaction with the captain's work, if I may then give some details which may illustrate, indicate that the suspicion of the family that there is a blockage there somewhere. When we went down and when I pointed out to him that it seems as if this was your mother who wanted to know about her husband, you would probably move with a better speed. I think that made him, it actually made him very unprofessional. It became personal, and we had to escalate the matter to his boss, Colonel Bizwana. Colonel Bizwana never addressed that to the satisfaction of the family. That's the time that I'm saying that what they did, they came with a ring binder of all cuttings and all historical things that some are coming from the internet. I don't want to belabor the point. The SSA had said that, they had also said that they will assist in whatever way we should put. And clearly, I'm not the investigating officer. I couldn't access those or start requesting and doing the parallel investigation. In that, to that point, Captain Swela said that on one occasion he went on to Pretoria, to archives in Pretoria, where he was turned by a person at the gate or at the access. The letter that was lying somewhere that was waiting for a signature of an authority, whether it was ever signed, whether access was granted, the investigating officer never gave us an update to that. I'm saying that this because it had become that by the time we wrote to Advocate Batoyi, which was in 2020, and the time of the start of the investigation, anything that we could see, every time one had to phone SIU and ask for an update, what is happening, what has happened. The response was more like an excuse after an excuse. It was not, it really was not encouraging. If I may, in the state I am in right now, if I may point that even at the time of, at the instance of the news of Mrs. Gqabi dying, I phoned the investigating officer and informed him that very afternoon. And he just said, oh, and that's it. The call ended. I have not heard from him from before the period that before Mrs. Gqabi's death up to today. I have not heard from SIU or for any state apparatus or the police in whatever form they are, intelligence or any other form of police. It is heartbreaking. At that time, we pointed out, Mrs. Gqabi pointed out to them, said, this feels like you guys are dragging your feet, hoping that I will die and this case will stop. She said at that time, even if I were to die, she called me Kabelo. She said, my son here is going to continue that. That is the short answer to your answer, evidence leader. And besides that, there is, I must say, a whole the part of the voice of Mrs. Gqabi, the widow to Joe Gqabi, who could be here today and talk for herself, that has been rendered silent by maybe our approach. I do respect, with due respect of the commission, that everything has got time, has got the direction and the rules and regulations, but some of the things often get lost in the gaps. Just as we had to wait for 45 years before any hearing of any kind of this, specifically about the death, the murder of a leader of our country in a foreign country, and the state and everything else did nothing. And even when we took initiative to go to the NPA, and the people that were investigating has provided us with nothing. That is helpful.
Mr. Ganda, can we just zoom in on 21.3? You are saying that the information that reached you is that the efforts of the investigating officer was frustrated by the DPCI. Now, we know that the DPCI only became operational around October 2009. And if maybe you could say who in particular frustrated the investigation, it would help. I know that Lieutenant General Lebea was the DPCI head from the 1st of June 2018. I'm asking this so that if it is necessary, we could summon this person to come and explain himself or herself. Can you help us?
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, I will not have the details of individuals that had blocked. Otherwise, I would have charged them directly. I would have gone to the police station. Commissioner, there are in my annexes, there are references to a direct communication. Some of it is cell phone communication and responses from Captain Siwela, where amongst people that he mentioned, I'm just trying to page through as I'm talking to you. One of his WhatsApp response. This is the SG4. I'm the one who's starting with on the 5th of October 2023. I said, Captain Swell, I trust your word. How did it fare last week? His response is, Mr. Ganda, I had meeting with Jabulani Khader, SSA, liaison officer. He requested me to engage with his manager and DG. Further on the 7th of January, there's a lapse in that period. There are other communication that are not a hard copy like this. Okay, the response has been, I'm trying to find the, okay. On SG3, I don't think the actual annex comes out very clear. I had to write it by hand, but the one that starts with Captain Suela, and there's a number 54 on it, of the 20th May 2023. Thanks for information. I really appreciate it. I have requested you to the House to push DG, State Security Agency, to provide our office with the files. I'm not happy the manner in which Advocate Masilela deals with this matter, because he's not even taking my calls. I will keep you informed. A number of messages were deleted there. Commissioner, just with those two things, this is a communication between me and the investigating officer. He's an investigating officer after lengthy and several checking with him where the case is going to. He, out of frustration, named his colleagues and where the bottlenecks are. Maybe Captain Suela or his colleagues here can be summoned. I am not sure how the commission treats with that or proceed with that. That is my short question to that. The other things
Yes,
I may remember from
Thank you, Mr. Ganda.
Thank you.
I think the question was confined to the DPCI.
Okay, yes, Chairperson, if I can be assisted with the acronym. I know that
The
through
DPCI
drafting
is the DPCI are the Hawks, popularly
Yes.
known as the Hawks.
yes,
Directorate for Priority Crime Investigative Unit.
yes.
Yes.
Commissioner, in this case, I had dealt with the SIU. I don't know in terms of the structure, where do they fit in with the DPCI? In some of the meetings that I had, I went to their offices in Pretoria, and I could see different labels on the doors. I have not personally spoken to them, and Captain Suela has not mentioned that this is DPCI and this is whoever. But in the annexures, there is a mention in passing of that. I am not able to assist that far.
Thank you, Mr. Gqabi.
Thanks, Chair and Commissioners. Mr. Ganda, let's go to paragraph 24. You say that some of the efforts the family took to try and assist the investigating officer by providing them with information that you think would be helpful. And was that information really followed up upon? Specifically in Annexure SG8, we have, which is a communication between yourself and Captain Suela, and it confirms that he would reach out to one of the journalists of the link that you had sent them, or the list that you had sent them. Was that followed up upon? Were reasons provided, or any of the other leads taken upon?
Thank you, Commissioners. Yes, indeed, the lead that we provided, other than the high profile that I mentioned earlier on, we have received no response from it. The SG8 annexer, that initiative is amongst many initiatives that I tried out. And Captain Suela said that he would go to Cape Town, he would request a trip to Cape Town, and he would sit down with him, with Max Dupree, and find out. The reason for Max Dupree had done an elaborate investigative work similar to affecting similar issues to the ones that affect this case of the late Joe Gqabi. In the process, he went there and he came back and he said, no, I met with him. I think he said that nothing came out of it. And he had, to me, he had a holiday in Cape Town at our expense. I'm saying that with a little bit of I'm holding back, but that's what happened specifically with that. The other leads that were sent out there are necessarily leads that of people, some of them were still alive. As I pointed, needless to repeat, Jeremy Brickle, he's in a sensitive life condition, and he's got wealth of knowledge. He is in Zimbabwe, in Harare. He's got wealth of knowledge on these issues that we're talking about. In other words, the issue about how Comrade Joe got to be killed and the conspiracies that were there at that time. I'm not saying that he was a witness or whatever, but let me point out that he was in the intelligence of that country as well. And no, the question is, of the people that we put out there, we did not get any response. Some we don't even know if they were conducted. For all I know, they will never followed up. This is the case that the evidence leader that I'm not accusing Captain Sewell personally, but I'm saying the system. If he was part of the system had a way of blocking anything and everything that happened. Even if you take it from the beginning, that Captain Matipe was told that leave that case, get out of that case. I don't have the name to put to that, but I'm pointing out that dealing with a system is very difficult because you cannot. Some people will not name who said what when.
Yes, but Mr. Ganda, the officers that you're mentioning are captains. They are very junior, so they could not really have blocked the investigation by themselves. We understand that you're not blaming them.
Commissioner, I appreciate that point. And when I referred to the system, I was saying that there are ways of making things get exhausted or people abandoning them by either attaching responsibility to junior people, but he had a colonel as a direct report, a colonel that came to 2 of our meetings. A colonel is able to escalate things further. I have not seen that happening. That's a central point about it. When I say the system, the colonel may himself have been a bit too small for some of the things, but I don't have political clout when I could get to call the minister down and talk to him as an example. With due respect, I'm not showing the argument with you, but I'm pointing out that it's a point appreciated. But the blocking is happening somehow, one way or the other. And otherwise, if there was no blocking, it is very difficult to understand why would a seemingly straightforward case have these difficulties of getting people not stopping letters to be written, DERCO not coming back, people being sent to the embassy in Zimbabwe, and then people being who had said that, yeah, write a letter, I'll do something, and then later on it's no, go back to DERCO. It's not, that is the one. Those are things that create suspicion.
So thanks, Mr. Ganda. As we draw closer to the end of your statement, can you please go to paragraph 29, page 9?
Sorry. Okay.
Yes.
I will have to read it and I'll talk to it.
Yes, if you can read it and then expand on it. This links to your point on how a simple, straightforward case somehow is actually frustrated and there isn't really any progress going on. And how the fact that Joe Gqabi was a high-ranking ANC leader and his assassination could have came up from highest authorities.
Let him read paragraph 29, Mr. Gqabi.
Yes.
Okay. Paragraph 29, the suspicion that there could have been deliberate and concerted attempts to obstruct and interfere with the investigations into Joe Gqabi's assassination is reinforced by the fact that he was the highest ranking ANC executive ever assassinated in exile. The order to kill him would necessarily have originated from the highest authorities of the apartheid state. The disclosure of those responsible will deeply be embarrassing and politically sensitive. I want to say to that, in the issues of anybody or state or whatever body contemplating or planning to go and commit a crime of murder in another country, there would need to be a compelling case to send the forces or the forces that are employed by the government, that receive pension, that give salary from the government, to go there and risk neighborly bilateral relations or break law by invading another country to commit crime. Therefore, things like that are not decided on a captain, a colonel, or some rogue general alone, because that could cause problems of the international nature. So my saying that the decision would have been sanctioned at the highest level is that it would have an implication on the relations between Zimbabwe and South Africa. Now, on the morning of the news of Joe Gqabi being killed, the then foreign minister, Pete Botha, on radio, he said, he was interviewed, and I think the record will be there, SABC. He said that, well, we have got nothing to do with that. We could never be involved. The nature, you just look at the nature of his death. His killing was more like an execution. It is not us. He was, I would like to think that he was spinning a situation that he could possibly have had a wind of it or wanted to distance the apartheid state at that time as far as possible. And my emphasis that it would have been sanctioned at the high level. It doesn't matter, even at that time it was peak water. We had commissioners, a dispensation, that amongst other things, some of the people who are appearing before this commission talk to. Some of them say that there was an agreement between to allow for the dispensation to take, for the new election to take place, and assurances that the entities involved, I'll call it that way, because I don't have factual points to make, that they agreed to look the other way. The question is, could this be one of the cases? Could it be then, as the investigation go forward, each time a plug is pulled out of it? I don't have that investigation expertise, but in absence of any action or any interest whatsoever, the unknown, invisible hand behind is to be blamed, or suspicion it falls there.
Thank you, Mr. Ganda. And now, in closing, you can share your closing remarks and what you'd like to see come out of this commission.
Yes, the one point that I would like to make without apologizing about it or without skirting around is that the two occasions that Joe Gqabi there was an attempt to kill him. He was with me, except for the fact that when the car that I discovered the bomb in, he just happened that day to have traveled to Lusaka. If we were all in that car, I would have been killed there. The night that he got killed, he was with me. It is also my concern and interest to know who could have, my life was also on the line, who could have been have the interest of wiping out, irrespective the people that were there. May I also point out, evidence leader, that at the time we were living in a house with a refugee family of Selno, his wife and 3 children. We were living with one other comrade that had just crossed the border to South Africa, to Zimbabwe, by the name of Geraldine Fraser. She would also have been killed there. I am really concerned about why would it be so difficult for anybody to, even if it is to say that, no, the case has gone cold, in which case we would be open to any other means of trying to pursue human rights violations, as the TRC had pointed out. Other than that, as stated by Mrs. Gqabi, and as we stated before, and myself, we're not looking for compensation or for money, not at all. We are not looking for fame. I'm not saying these things because there's sensationalism that I'm after or fame. If there's anything, many people will be watching this or attend this conference, they would have never heard of Shadrach Ganda except those that I worked with in the underground with Joe Gqabi. It is said, I would like to see this matter being investigated, the question of why at each corner, at each turn, the investigation don't go anywhere. Why did I have to be the one that is chasing up investigating officers to give a response of some kind of any way? Why would, when TRC in 1996 said that the NPA would investigate, and instead I had to write to the head of NPA in 2020. By that time, of course, the TRC process had been finished and done with. Just as a way in passing, there's a lot of misspelling in the names of Mrs. Gqabi. She's not Noma Zochwa, she's Noma Zocho. There's in my statement to the TRC and the transcript, I am Shadrach Ganda, Ganda. I'm not Shadrach Gavenda. I'm referred to as Shadrach Gavenda, and other things. And there may also be some errors in my affidavit. But we're seeking just the truth and the expose of those people that were involved in, from the highest level. It's fine, Mrs. Gqabi has passed now, but she had said that she wanted closure so that she can move on with her life. Mrs. Gqabi still have she might have been the last adult in there. She's got 2 grandchildren and a great-grandchild. Maybe if there's reparations, they possibly could be the beneficiary. Should we get to that, or should we have a heart as South Africa to do something to that end?
Thank you, Mr. Ganda. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. That was the oral evidence of Mr.
Thank
Ganda.
you, Mr. Gqabi. On behalf of the Kalata family, any clarificatory questions?
Thank you, Chair. We have no questions for Mr. Ganda.
Thank you. Ms. Sakai?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witness. We don't have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Seminya?
Chair, I would ask Ms. Seme to take over this witness.
Thank you. Ms. Sime?
Thank you, Mr. Gqabi. Your story,
Ganda.
Mr. Ganda, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Ganda. Your story is a very important story. We'd like to assure you that your story, like many other stories, we believe should be documented. We are obviously constrained by the terms of reference of this commission to listen to evidence that is talking to the terms of reference. However, we appreciate that you've waited for 45 years to tell this story and that you've had this opportunity. We really feel your pain, and we may not have been where you've been all these years, but we really want to extend our heartfelt and moving pain that we feel for you, and wish that you may really release that pain one way or the other. What I would like to ask you is, you mentioned the SIU in your testimony. I'm not sure I understand what the connection is and who in the SIU was investigating this matter.
I believe that sorry, excuse me. I believe that Captain Swena.
Yes.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm having a difficult. I'm having a difficult time, but I believe in SIU, Mr. Captain Swela is employed by the SIU. That's what he says. Oh, that's what the story that's what I know about him. So that's my reference to it. I'm referring to the office that pays his salary, as I understand. There are other, that's my answer.
We will follow up with the information you've given us in respect of the SSA and DPCI. Remind you that, of course, the names that you have mentioned, we have an obligation to reach out to those people and inform them that they are implicated, and to that extent, they may want to call you up for cross-examination later on. Again, I wish to extend our deepest empathy and the pain that you have told of the history of this country is really well received and recorded. Thank you, Mr. Ganda.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. That was it from us.
Thank you, Mr. Gqabi.
There's just one thing that I would want to Mr. Ganda, I thought it would be perhaps more poignant. I thought you would conclude by reading paragraphs 31, 32, and 33. They are short for the record. Do you mind doing that, please?
Yes, Commissioner, I will do that. In conclusion, I submit that my evidence on behalf of the Gqabi family will demonstrate that there were deliberate efforts to obstruct the investigations and prosecution of the TRC cases Joe Gqabi being the one. That's not in my affidavit. In particular, the assassination of Joe Gqabi, and will assist the commission in carrying out its mandate. I respectfully submit that the commission recommends steps to be taken by the NPA or any other relevant organ of state to assist with the investigation into these assassinations, including, where necessary, access to sealed or archival material relevant in this case. The murder of Joe Gqabi was not an isolated act. It formed part of widespread and systematic attack carried out against opponents of apartheid. That was a crime against humanity. The relevant organs of state are obliged, in terms of both the Constitution and international law, to investigate his assassination insofar as possible, ensure accountability and redress. I further respectfully submit that the Commission recommends that constitutional damages be provided to the families and victims of apartheid, of the apartheid era, political violence, and the gross human rights violation they suffered, including the ongoing violation of their right to humanity dignity caused by the interference with and failures by the NPA, the South African Police Services, in investigating and prosecuting the TRC cases.
Thank you.
Those are the paragraphs.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Gqabi. Mr. Ganda, we thank you for having availed yourself
Chair.
to...
Sorry. Nothing for now, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Ganda, we thank you for having availed yourself to give evidence before this commission after such a long time of the occurrence of this incident. We appreciate your availability and the evidence that we have tendered before this commission. You are now, for now, excused as a witness. You may be recalled, if need be, for cross-examination, but for now you are excused as a witness.
Thank you, Chairperson. As a court business.
Chair, that would be the business for the day, the hearings, the further conduct of the Commission's work will be done in chambers.
Yes.
Might I also indicate that given the next witness and his health problems, that we commence hearing tomorrow at 9 o'clock to go until 1 o'clock?
Yes. These proceedings stand adjourned until tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Mr. Gqabi, may we see you in chambers?